go. So here we are, still trying out Restream, and I found some graveyard gray, and I'm using it to paint some elephants. I've had these elephants for a very long time, and I've never painted them. So that is kind of what's happening. It is early. I've been up early. I think I woke up before my wife did this time, actually, which never happens. And I put on my morning getting ready song, and she ran out of the room like a vampire that had just been confronted by garlic, which was adorable in its own way. So, right now, I'm actually using Graveyard Gray Speed Paint to go over the elephant. And I was worried it might be a bit on the dark side, but so far, no. No, it's looking pretty good. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot of the elephant to paint, to be perfectly honest. Most of it is covered by armor. So, you know, like, yeah, it's covered in like leather armor and chain armor, Mel. It's got a big carpet on it with tassels. There's, chains all over the place holding everything together. So, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it all up, and then it'll be ready to go for my saga army. Because this guy's going to be for the Persians. There'll actually be two of these for the Persian army. And if you're wondering which Persians, I believe it'd be Sassanid Persians. Could be wrong, but I think it's Sassanid. Whoever King Darius ruled, whichever group that was, Sassanid or Archimedean or whatever. I'd have to open up my Saga Ancients book to figure it out. Not necessarily doing that right this second. What does this say? New designs. Nice. Oh, I could add somebody. I should. I know who I should add to. I know exactly. Who I need to get on here. And he should be awake too. So he won't even have an excuse. Boom. That's right. That's right. Get it. Get it. Boom. Okay. But anyway, yeah, most of this guy's going to be leather. And I've got my snake bite leather. So I'm going to pretty much try to paint as much of the elephant as possible with speed paints and contrast paints. And the reason is just to see what I end up with. You know what I mean? Sometimes you experiment, right? So, yeah, that gray's pretty nice. I like it. I like it. So, let's see. And now, since I've got some gray left over and I've got this guy right here wearing a long coat, I'm going to take that same gray and I'm going to do his long coat because, gray would be a good color for that, I think. Right. Right. Put my leg up. Like Uncle Roger. Put my leg up. But yeah, we'll give this guy gray long coat and hood. Um, One, that would be a color that would be very, very easy to make back in medieval times, and two, it allows me to paint a miniature without. Oh, look at this guy. Hey, how you doing, this guy?
It's too early for this shit.
It's too early. What? We both know you was up early this morning.
Mm-hmm.
You get up early all the time.
I've been busy
What you been busy doing?
cooking
What you cooking?
turkey miso soup.
Turkey miso soup. That just doesn't sound like things that should go together.
You're missing out if you think that.
I think miso soup should be served basically with no meat and diced up soy,
I'm not a soy boy like
like
certain.
tofu,
Nope.
diced up tofu.
Meat. Hey, Bubba.
I mean, I guess you could put meat in it. It just doesn't seem like the right thing to do.
Well, I had this turkey carcass,
Hey, good morning.
and I had this miso paste.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah.
I put a little bit too much gray on my palette, so now I'm just randomly grabbing miniatures that are laying on the table and painting them gray because I don't want to waste any of the paint. It's like this paint's expensive, man.
So basically, I made turkey and rice
Nice.
soup with miso paste.
Hmm.
It's good.
I'm betting that was probably pretty interesting. It's Taco Tuesday.
It's delicious.
I don't know what day today will be for me.
It's breakfast.
Uh,
Hey, Bubba, don't forget pickled red cabbage.
my wife makes delicious pickled red cabbage.
Your haircut cut aggravates me.
My haircut?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you're out of the two brothers, you're the one with a full head of hair.
Yeah.
And you decide to shave your head and do silly shit with it when you could have these long, gorgeous locks. And here I am, looking like a freaking Cupid doll.
Yeah. Well, maybe it won't grow back, and then we'll both be in the same boat.
It's already growing back. I can already see your freaking hairline.
So I haven't talked to you in like a couple of days. How you been?
We were on stream together yesterday until you decided to start a new stream on me and Bear.
Yeah, Bear rejoined. What happened is
You're a little retarded.
the other stream just died out. The StreamYard just decided it was done with my ass and was like, yeah, you're done. Yeah, pickled red cabbage is good. My wife also makes pickled red onion. Man, that stuff is so good.
I like fermented Napa cabbage.
Like on sandwiches and stuff. It is absolutely the bomb.
That's my jam.
Fermented Napa cabbage.
Yeah.
When did you become like some kind of food critic guy?
Kimchi kicks ass. It's good and it's good for you.
Well, why didn't you just say kimchi?
Because all kimchi is fermented Napa cabbage.
It could be fermented bok choy too.
No, but they do have radish and cucumber kimchi.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
I've got those in my refrigerator too. They use daikon radish. They use daikon radish and cut it into nice bite-sized squares. Then they get cucumbers and turn those into kimchi too.
Well, I don't imagine it's, really that difficult. I mean, it's not like you're doing anything out of the ordinary or special. You're just freaking making some kimchi. I mean, you can pretty much just bury the jar in the yard for a little while and dig it up later and be done.
It takes a little bit more than that.
Yeah, you got to put the stuff in the jar. And then you bury it in the yard. And then you dig it up a month later. I mean, when I was in school, one of the guys I hung out with was Korean, and he used to tell me that's what his mom did all the time. She just buried it out in the yard in a big jar. So, yeah, you're not a very good co-host.
I ain't even supposed to be here today.
Right? Like the best sex your girlfriend ever had was in a bathroom.
Yeah, it was somebody else.
Yeah. She was like, I like it how you just laid there real quiet and let me do everything. Like, wait, what? Yeah, in the animated series, they go on to say that she ended up getting locked up in a mental ward.
Yeah.
Bubba wants to know if you're still playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah, sometimes. I haven't played anything in like since before I went up to mom's house.
Yeah, he's very unreliable. Like, don't count on Hungar to play anything.
What are you talking about? Who's the one who sat around Sunday waiting for the game to start?
Well, I mean, computer games.
It's nice when the game group decides to do every other week without letting one of the members know.
Well, yeah, that's pretty sure everybody knew. I was thinking of a way to play Atlanta that might make it easier on all the players. And that would be to have everybody make themselves and then say something happened and they all got sucked into Atlanta.
So you're going to try to turn a game into an isekai.
And they have to do whatever they want to do in Atlanta. I mean, maybe some of them decide they want to become adventurers, or maybe, people go on quests to get home. Except there won't be a dungeon master to help you out. You'll just be on your own. I was thinking more of the D&D cartoon, but whatever. An isekai is, sure.
Isekai is the genre of anime where somebody gets swept off into another world.
Oh, okay. That's lame.
So's your face.
I watched Asmongold playing Four Hearts or something the other day. It made me think of you.
I was talking to our cousin in New Zealand earlier this morning, like 3:00.
Oh yeah, how's he?
Good.
How's this baby?
Good.
Good.
Found out that one of the guys in our WoW guild is the writer that did the BattleTech novels with the Jihad.
Oh, did you tell him he's a fag?
No, I told Jesse to tell him that House Draconis Combine was the best house.
Oh. I was just going to say, tell him he's a fag for doing stuff that's not in 3025.
I'm not the super 3025 purist you are.
Like,
I like 3025. That's where I want to play. But I play other eras too.
yeah, you've always been a lot more open-minded about things.
I'm not saying I'm open minded about it. I'm just saying if I got a chance to play, I'm gonna play.
Whereas I'm like a snob.
You know, some say snob, others say ass. I mean,
Either way,
either way, it is what it is.
everybody knows the deal. Miss me with that freaking clan invasion bullshit.
See, I'm not a big fan of the clan. I never have been, but the novels were fun.
Yeah, novels were okay. The ones with Kyle Lard and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all right. I hear vacuuming. My sister-in-law's coming over. I think the wife wants to take us all to medieval times.
The one I like and no.
Yeah.
Oh. that sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Go have fun.
So I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I heard they changed the show, so
I never seen it anyway. The only time I ever saw the show is when I was peeping between the curtains, you know?
yeah, he was always back in the stables.
Yeah, but I was always back in the stable, stabling horses and shit.
I was in the show.
You was the show.
I am the show, the big show.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Whereas, you know, when I entered on stage, you know what song they played? Time to play the game. Right? Right.
And they scream out, "Degeneration X."
Actually, was Time to Play the Game during the Degeneration X period?
No.
But that was still Hunter Hearst Helmsley, right?
Yeah, Triple H. It went from Hunter Hearst Helmsley to Triple H to the game.
Yeah, and he had Lemmy doing his soundtrack.
Yeah, he was buddies with Lemmy.
So, you know, that's kind of cool, you know? If you're a wrestler and like you've got Lemmy Killmeister
Yeah.
doing your soundtrack, I mean, that's braggable, I think. Then he ended up marrying Steph McMahon.
Why wouldn't he?
I know, right? She's like the heiress to like $2 quadrillion.
Yeah.
Sounds like my wife is watching another video of women just losing their fucking minds.
I love those videos.
You ever notice like 99% of the time it's chicks and 90% of the time they have a nose piercing?
Yeah.
It's like what has happened, you know? What is going on? Like, first off, nose piercings are not for chicks. That's a dude thing. If you're gonna have a septum ring, that's definitely a dude piercing. That's like a labret piercing. If you're a chick, don't get your labret pierced. It's just not cool, you know. But yeah, like it's almost all chicks, all whining, and they all have face piercings
And goofy hair.
and goofy fucking hair. It's like, really, you know, it's like, do you people not understand that you're a caricature of yourself? It's like, and it kind of makes me a little bit perturbed because it's like, I don't know who misinformed you, but you are not punk. You are the opposite of punk.
They are the opposite of punk.
You are, you know, 100% pro the authorities, the man, the system. Like, you know, you're not punk. Stop fucking pretending. You know, you can get as pierced as you want. You can dye your hair all the colors you want. But let's be honest, you're listening to freaking uh, Come to My Window.
We're probably listening to Taylor Swift.
Yeah, you're listening to Taylor Swift or freaking uh, some other lame ass shit that no one cares about, and trying to be like, check me out. I'm so punk. It's like, you're not punk. You know how you know who's punk? The ones listening to Ramones. That's punk. Sex Pistols. Fucking The Clash. It's like if you're listening to Taylor Swift, you're not punk. If you're listening to Fall Out Boy, you're not punk. You know, you're just another fucking millennial with no anything of your own. So you just try to copy everybody else's shit.
I
What?
gotta go.
Why?
I got a phone call coming in. It's from my nurse.
Well, tell them to call later. You're
I
busy.
can't.
Fine. You're an
Love,
ass.
love you.
Yeah, I remember when you used to like to hang out with me.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
You will. And I'm going to make you pay for all the rejections. Every rejection. You will pay.
Well, they might be trying to reschedule my appointment
Yeah.
to before when I come down to Florida instead of to after I come down to Florida.
Okay, that could be good.
So I need to call them back. But I love you.
I love you.
Bye.
Well, that's just my little rant about the situation. These people trying to jump on the bandwagon and claim they're punk. And it's like, you're not punk. You never were punk. You never will be punk. Punk is dead. It died back in the early 90s, mid 90s. Had a good run. We all enjoyed it. We still listen to it on occasion, but sometimes shit happens, it comes and it goes. And there's just nothing you can say or do about it. It's like goth. I loved the goth scene, but goth is dead. Hey, how you doing, Bear? So if somebody's trying to be all like, I'm goth, and it's like, no, you're probably not. I mean, if you're under the age of like 40, you're probably not goth. You're you're a poser. And it don't even make me sad, really. It's just like it's the natural order of things, you know? It's the natural order of things.
What up,
How you doing,
superstar?
Bear?
I'm good, man. What are you up to? What's happening with you?
I am painting an elephant.
Well, that's fun. What are you? Punk is dead. What's going on? What's this all about?
What?
What triggered this?
Oh, I'm just
Oh,
rambling.
Psycho Billy's deader than punk. My God.
I'm just rambling about me and Hungar were having a conversation because I could overhear my wife listening to some video of a bunch of chicks freaking the hell out because and I was saying, you ever notice how 99% of the people freaking out about the election are chicks, and 99% of them have colored hair and piercings.
Yeah.
And I was like, and they probably think they're like alternative or punk,
Yeah.
but they're such freaking. I mean, they're the first ones to bow down to any sort of authority,
Yeah.
And it's like, and then I was just going off on the whole, I loved the goth scene. I loved it. It was so much fun back in the 90s, but guess what? It's done. It's
Yeah.
not coming back.
The thing is, nothing replaced them. That's the thing. I think that's the hardest thing for people to understand and why there's no move on, right? Punk died, goth died, alternative died, even emo died, which was the last gasp of rebellious culture. And now rebellion is commercialized, and being rebellious is profitable, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the rebellion that we're seeing happen in our society now is conservatism.
Right.
It's really
Like
weird.
not rebelling is the rebelling.
Yeah, exactly. Not being an outsider freak and trying to be a normal part of society is an act of rebellion now. It's like it's so weird. And to have lived to see this, absolutely astounding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's why you've got like Sid Vicious and Morrissey are both like disowned by the left
Yeah.
because they looked around and they're like, nah, it turns out we're right leaning. Who knew? It's like,
Mm.
back in the day we were like the far left, but today we're the right.
What was that line Churchill had about any conservative in his 40s was a liberal in his 20s? You know what I mean? Like something like that. It was, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something like that. And it's a pretty
Yeah, it was like
straightforward
any
expression.
man who is not a progressive when or liberal when they're young has no heart, but if they're not conservative when they're older, they have no brain.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly. And I think that's the sad part of it all, right? Is
Yeah.
that we just live in that sort of mess. But we're also broken. And I'm telling you this for free. Watching, observing, it's something I've done all my life. All my jobs have been based on observing human behavior from being, bodyguard, security, bouncer, actor, teacher. All the things I've done for most of my life have involved studying humans.
Right.
We are in a very broken phase of humanity right now. We are starting to see the first real in this last 10 years, we're starting to see the first real breakdown of the 50s and 60s kids and what their lifestyle has done to them as adults. We're now coming into the era where the Gen Xers are starting to show their true stripes, and the millennials never had a chance to be their own generation. You know what I mean? They were too busy comparing themselves to every other generation that they never found their own identity, and therefore their identity is broken from the word go. And that's why they're obsessed with identity and they're obsessed with, gender swapping and all this kind of stuff because they're lost. We call Gen X the lost generation, but we're not. We're the forgotten generation. The millennials are the truly lost generation in that they are lost, have no direction, have no point. And Generation Z is starting to impress me again because I'm starting to see a lot more of what they're doing and a lot more of what they're thinking. And they are leaning towards the salvation of community. They are leaning towards the salvation of society. They are leaning towards old traditional values as opposed to do whatever the hell you want. And I think that's a good sign because that means we might actually have a chance at saving Western civilization.
Yeah, yeah, because they want to rebel, and like you said, the way to rebel now is to be a normal human being.
Yeah, when they look at their elders and they see them all with colored hair and septum piercings and sleeve tattoos, they're like, whoa, wait, what? That's the norm. We got tattoos and ear piercings in the 80s because our parents didn't have them. You know what I mean? That was our
Right.
way of rebelling, was to look freaky. Now they look at their parents or their older uncles and aunties or brothers and sisters and they go, they look like freaks. So to rebel, I'm going to throw on a suit and tie. I'm going to get a decent job. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to not going to have premarital sex. I'm going to do all these things that are not the norm for the older generations. And I mean, that's maybe a good thing in the long run.
I think you're right. I mean, I know that based on our, the United States last election,
Yeah.
it was like the Gen Z males came out in droves,
Yep.
and the Democrats were like, they just weren't ready for it. They thought they had the youth vote tied up,
They did. Yeah. They really did. And they didn't pay attention. That was their other big mistake,
and
right?
they didn't pay attention. They were too busy trying to appeal to the fringe groups, you know, and then the next thing you know, it's like, you know,
Yeah.
Africa Bluey. Gen Z come out and 90%
Alakazam!
of them, yeah, right. It's
Yeah.
like Gen Z came out and 90% of them voted for the Orange Man.
Yeah.
And everybody's just looking around like, what the
But the
hell
reason they
just
did it was
happened here?
because they're going, I want to be able to afford a house. I want to maybe have a family. I want to have a career and not 5 jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they look at who caused all of this bullshit to happen, and it's clear. The arrows point in one direction and one direction only: leftism. Marxism, socialism. Yeah, there's some good ideas in there, but the whole cake, it's like you have a cake, a flaxseed cake with a nice icing and M&Ms. Well, the M&Ms and icing are nice, but that flaxseed's a little fucking hard to digest, right? So can't we have a chocolate cake with the nice icing and the M&Ms? And that's what they're
I
saying.
just don't understand, and maybe I'm a weird Republican because I'm not opposed to some social safety nets.
Yeah.
I've always let it be known like old ladies should never be starving on the street or anything like
Old
that.
people shouldn't have to eat cat food because they didn't invest properly in the start. The stock.
Right, right. I mean, you got to take care of the old people because that's how you judge a society.
Yep.
It's like how society treats the elderly. You can tell everything about the society from that, really. But
No.
so while I'm fiscally conservative, I still believe in safety nets.
Well, that's
So
exactly what I am, right? I'm
I
fiscally
don't
conservative, but I'm
know. Yeah.
socially liberal. Yeah.
Well, I'm culturally, I don't give a fuck.
Well, I believe
I
it
mean,
doesn't hurt us
excuse the
to.
language.
No, no.
Pardon the
Listen, okay,
language, but
I totally hear what you're saying, but my philosophy is this: fiscal conservatism is what builds your society and gives it a stable base to work from. Social progressivism, liberalism, whatever, allows you to show compassion for the people that are not succeeding in the system and help them up. Those are two very good, normal, human Western values that can occupy the same head. What's happened is that on the fringes of those, we have the extreme right and we have the extreme left. And they are so far to the extreme that they abandon this core philosophy of what Western society should be, which is yes, you have the ability to make as much money as you can on your beliefs, but you're not allowed to fuck people over, poison people, murder people, or leave old people living in fucking unheated homes eating cat food. Like that's the thing. It's crazy.
so
But
basically, no Ancapistan.
exactly.
We're not doing the Ancapistan.
There you
How
go.
you doing, Jose?
Hola, Jose. I love your name, man. Jose Pablo Luna Sanchez. I love that. That's one thing I will always love about Latino culture is the four name system. I used to date a girl whose name was Ana Gabriela Sanchez Ramirez. It's like, what a name. It was so cool.
Yeah, it's like a Spanish, like from Spain thing where
Yeah.
you get named like after your father's side and your mother's
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you can be named after where you're from. Like the one artist, his middle name was Trinidad
Mm-hmm.
because apparently he had family who had come from Trinidad.
How
You
much
know,
longer are you going to be on this morning, James?
I just came on, so
Okay. I got to bounce for a half an hour to a meeting at work, and
yeah.
then I'll just put myself on mute here in your channel, and I'll let you know when I'm back from my meeting.
Okay, do you think?
If you want to remove me from the screen for now, I understand completely. I won't be offended.
Okay, I'm not doing anything extra exciting anyway. Just painting up some elephants. But yeah, in Spanish we have two last names. Yeah, yeah. But in American Irish culture, which somehow I got caught up in because of my last name, um, even though I'm only 4% Irish, I have an Irish last name. So my whole life, everyone just assumed we were Irish until we actually did a DNA test. And it was like, yeah, no. Um, if I have one negative thing to say about the Irish, is they have a tendency to give their kids names that are the informals of more formal names. So instead of naming their child William, they'll name their child Billy. Or instead of like, you get what I'm saying, amongst Kentucky Irish or Scots Irish, they have a tendency of giving their kids very informal names. When a woman marries, she doesn't change her last name. Does she just get her husband's name? Because that's actually like if I'd married my wife and she had said, I want to keep my maiden name and just add your name behind it, I'd have been like, yeah, cool. That's fine. You know what I mean? Wouldn't bother me a bit. I'd be like, all right, do your thing, you know? But I'm not like, a person named Maria Lopez Rodriguez marries Juan Perez. She becomes Maria Lopez Rodriguez de Perez. Yeah, so that's what I thought. And I would, as an American, I would have no problem with that at all. If my wife had wanted to keep her maiden name and be whatever, McKee, I'd have been like, okay, you do you, boo. I mean, I wouldn't be offended by it. I mean, why would you? Who cares? I mean, it's not that big of a deal, right? It's like, I mean, honestly, between you and I think it's actually kind of cool, It's actually kind of cool. Kind of cool. Cool. You remember cool spelled with a K? Cool. But anyway, yeah. That wouldn't bother me a bit. I wouldn't give a shit. I'd be like, but I think there's other cultures that do that too, where they just like tack on the names. In a way, it's kind of forward thinking, like all these feminists that are talking about, I'm not taking my husband's name. Well, I mean, if you use Spanish naming conventions, then you ain't got to worry about it. You can take on your husband's name, keep your own name. There are a lot of Americans that do that. They hyphenate. You agree with safety nets? I do too. But they hyphenate. So they get married and then they become, say their name was Mary Johnson and they marry Mike Smith. They become Mary Johnson Smith. So some English speakers do that too, but we call it hyphenated names, but really it just means they keep their maiden name and then they take the husband's name as well. But yeah, I mean, while I believe that we should do everything we can to remove government waste, I still believe that you got to take care of the old people. You got to take care of, like, if a soldier comes back from war with his legs blown off and stuff, I mean, you got to take care of him, I mean, you can't just leave these people. And I'm not saying let people be on welfare for like 100 years, unless there's something seriously wrong with them, in which case, okay, right? Like if they're autistic and they'll never be able to hold a job, then obviously you're just going to have to deal with that as a culture, a society. But but yeah, this that's kind of where I am. I'm actually very socially conservative and also very fiscally conservative. But see, my view of social conservatism might be different than others, because my view of social conservatism is mind your own business. exists to enforce the law. Good luck cutting jobs without abolishing laws. Yeah, and the problem in America is every time a congressman gets elected, the first thing they want to do is get a law passed so that they can, pretend like they're actually doing something. You know what I mean? So the United States has a metric shit ton, let's use that since, of laws that don't even need to exist. But they do because some congressman wanted to put their name on a freaking bill so that they could then brag about, I got this law passed. And it's like, no one gives a shit. That law sucks. You know, just stop. It's like, imagine thinking that the founders didn't understand and pass enough laws. And that's kind of what it is. It's just hubris. Anyway, this is my I haven't done the guy's pants, shoes, hat, whatever, but this is the beginnings of my Persian elephant. The green rug that's on him, I'm actually going to stripe it with yellow because the Persians were well known for very colorful clothes and stuff. My wife and I realized we will need to support our son for as long as we both live, as he has fragile X. Is your son like Mr. Glass? Is that what that means? Because that's got to be like 1 in a billion. Yeah, I 3D printed that bad boy out and never really knew what I was going to do with him. And then I was like, well, I've got all these early Byzantines and I've got all these Macedonians and Greeks. So that just kind of right. I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. I've got tons of Greek hoplites, Macedonian Sarisimon, Alexander on his horse, Bucephalus with his companions. And I was like, and Persians? I mean, it just writes itself, don't it? I mean, really, right? That's a game that practically plays itself. And Hungar, who will be down here in a couple weeks, can't wait. There's a couple of games that we're going to be playing, and he has expressed his how he's looking so forward to it. Yeah. Well, all we can do is wait and see what's going to happen. Hey, Latholdus, what's up, homie? Are you in the waiting room? Is that why you're sending me messages? You let me know? Because this thing doesn't show if anybody's in the waiting room or not. Boom.
That's weird.
It's just a different thing. Let me pop Bear off so that we're on. Well, we were talking a little bit of politics, but mostly I was talking about getting my Persians all painted up so that they can go at it with my
Here's the thing. Government's really terrible with welfare. I think we should probably privatize it. Make it small and local, and I think it would work a lot better than these.
Yeah, that used to be how it was done. We called it churches.
Yeah.
Like if you needed help, you went to the church and was like, you know, that's how the Amish still do it. They have people that go around and collect the Amish fee once a month, and that pool of money is used to help people when they need help. You know, which sounds like a pretty good deal, you know,
Yeah.
as long as people don't take advantage of it. I mean, yeah, you know,
Again, why we probably should try to culturally change our ways back to that old system.
right.
And I think it's
But
possible. It's just it's going to be a long, arduous journey.
oh yeah, if anybody thinks this recent election was the end,
No.
this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
There's so much more work to do if we as citizens actually intend to you know, put this country back on the right track. There's so much work that needs to be done, you know. But at least now we have hope because we've seen that, you know, a kind of Republican can absolutely roll in and win a landslide.
Also, I can tell you, a lot of the money going to the government for these welfare programs are going to bureaucrats and not the people they need to go to.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's also the problem. I remember somebody telling me that the Red Cross keeps like the
Most
majority
of
of
it.
the money they take in
Oh, yeah.
as you know, to pay for bureaucracy.
See you, Off Grid Gaming.
Okay, take care. Off grid. I didn't even know off grid had popped in.
No, I didn't either.
I mean, I didn't see him pop in. NGOs waste 80. Yeah, yeah. It's
It'll be a
and
problem
that's
either
really
way,
what
but
we're dealing with in
I think
America.
I think it's worse with like government spending
Well, what we're
because
dealing with in the United States, I should say.
I could probably guarantee you most of these government programs are actually running a deficit because pretty much all the money is probably going to go to the bureaucrat, and then they borrow to pay off their obligations.
And I agree. That's what I was saying. It's not Democrat versus Republican. It's good versus evil. It's people versus bureaucrats. I mean, because the thing in America is that so many of the people who govern us were never elected.
No,
It's like they were appointed. And some of these people have been in that job
forever.
for literally like decades, you know?
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, so you've got a guy who's an appointed official, nobody voted for him, and he's been in charge of the Department of Tomfoolery for, you know, 50 years, doing whatever he's doing. And, you know, that's like when they had to smack the ATF down and remind the ATF that they don't get to make up rules concerning firearms because they were trying to go after pistol braces, and somebody sued them and won because it's like, you're the ATF. Your job is to take the laws that Congress makes and enforce them.
yeah,
But you do not get to make up rules.
that's also true. Yeah, government also gets rewarded by running deficits. That's how
Right.
they get more money.
Yeah. And you know what? That's even at like the city level. I've seen that at the city level
Yeah,
where like at towards the end of the year, the manager of a department, not the fire department, but you know, when I worked in the water department, when it become like near the end of the year, they would go on these crazy spending sprees to try and spend all the money from their budget because they knew if they spent all the money from their budget, then the next year's budget would be more. And I mean, I have nothing to say about it. It is what it is. That's just the way it works. I wish it didn't work that way, but that's the way it works. But
Maybe if we could get somebody in to make a law saying, do not do this, it's bad.
yeah, but that's like expecting Congress not to constantly vote themselves raises.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen. I mean, that's the craziest thing ever. It's like give a guy a job and then let the guy vote for whenever he gets a raise.
Should
It's
never
like
have happened.
it's like
Not exploitable at all. They're going to be honest and just do the right thing, right?
right.
Right?
I mean, see, here's how I would do it, right? If it were, if I were the whatever, I could make rules.
Dictator for a day. Just make the rules for a day. Fix
I would
everything.
say that Congress, if they want to raise, it has to be on the ballot when you vote for Congress. If they actually want there to be a raise, there has to be a simple up or down vote that people within that congressman's district can vote yes, he can have the raise, or no, he can't have the raise. And then that away, congressmen that truly represent their areas would make more money because they would be getting rewarded by their people for, like DeSantis would be a quadrillionaire for sure.
Yeah.
He could put like, do I deserve a raise on every freaking ballot, and it'd be like landslide yes. Mainly because of his actions during the pandemic. I'm not saying he's the greatest politician ever, but
He wasn't perfect on that either, but I still like him more than a lot of other ones.
yeah, he was the first guy to really stand up and be like, enough of this shit.
Yeah,
You
he
tried it
started
your
off.
way, we're done.
He started to close it down, and then he was like, "Huh, this isn't working. You know what? Just do whatever."
Yeah, he closed this down for like a month. And then at the end of that, he's like, no. Like
No
you
more
said,
bad.
he was like, this is not working. Nothing's slowing down. And so we might as well just ignore it and go back to wrestling alligators and fighting rattlesnakes. Because, I mean, you live in Florida. If you get whacked by a disease, it's probably not going to be that one.
Yeah, I like how they did it right before the Civil War. Then that should have never been allowed.
Well, yeah, prior to like relatively late on in our history, politicians did not get paid.
Like Trump, because Trump didn't take money. I mean, he did, but it was like $1.
Yeah, he had to take a
Multi-stick
dollar,
to do.
otherwise it would have been illegal.
Which is funny how you can't just decline a wage for civil service.
But yep, back before the Civil War, congressmen were considered mostly to be gentlemen farmers, and they would arrive in Washington a couple times a year, and they would handle whatever the business was, and then they would go back home to their farms or plantations or whatever, and that's what they would do the rest of the year.
Should be what it is now. It'd be a lot better that way.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. There's a lot of things in American history. It's like at the end of the Civil War, love him or hate him, Lincoln nationalized the United States. So it went from being 50 independent states to one big federal government.
Yes.
And that was kind of the beginning. And then in the 30s, when all the super rich people got together and created the beast from Jekyll Island, I mean, that was like uh, a bad thing, too. Oh, yeah, the United States, Jose, after Jimmy Carter signed in the Department of Education, the United States went from number one most educated country in the world to like 24. We literally have people graduating high school that read at a sixth grade level.
And I can tell you, the person who called you a socialist was probably more of a socialist than you. Especially if you're talking about New York. Yeah, New York, they're most likely going to be socialist.
Yeah, there's people in New York that I know personally that are unapologetic socialists. And, and the sad thing is the one I'm talking about, who was a family friend of my pops since they were little kids, even though she's what we call a Galitz, her daughter is a school teacher and also a non-apologetic socialist. And that's so weird because as a school teacher, you would think no one would have a better handle on the constant overreach of socialist governments. And yet, yeah, senators used to be chosen by the states. I am not sure why that changed, but it used to be the state governor would send two senators. Why that changed? Don't know. Don't know. But it's just, again, one more thing that changed in our system that I'm not sure why it changed. But the beast at Jekyll Island, what it did is it created the Federal Reserve and fractional banking.
Now that would be something.
Well, it did in the
No,
1930s.
I'm reading out. I was reading this one thing. Violence solves everything. Just said
Oh yeah,
shouldn't
yeah.
be a DC, but they should just have digital meetings.
Well, that's one thing that
Could be
Doge
possible now.
said they were going to do, and I hope they manage to do it, is that they're going to start moving departments out of DC.
Yeah.
Like,
Here's the thing: you could keep DC as like this cultural thing. You could turn it basically into a museum for basically American
history, yeah,
politics and history,
right.
and then just have people meet online because really it'd probably be far cheaper and better. You wouldn't have to have people fly up to DC from certain areas.
See, right now, if Elon Musk could hear you saying that, he would get the glowing eyes like freaking Goblin Slayer. You know what I mean? When he gets real mad. Because Elon Musk apparently absolutely hates work from home. And he recently found out that 80% of government employees work from home. So one of the first things he wants to do is make it where they have to come into the office.
Hey, I mean, I don't care either way. I just think it would be better if we did this because it would be cheaper on the The taxpayer.
Well, I think that there's like some
Well,
4D
yeah.
chess being played here because by demanding these people to come into the office, many of them will quit.
I mean, that would be
And
fine.
if
No,
they quit, then that means that
they could be replaced.
they don't have to be fired.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of that. I think they're making decisions like if you work for some department in Washington D.C. and they tell you, okay, we're going to need you to be prepared to travel to
Don't even
North
replace. We
Dakota
probably just
because
get rid
that's
of them.
where the new office is going to be. How many people do you think will quit?
A lot.
Right. So it's like I guess you could say shady, or you could say brilliant, or you could say both. But it's just a way to get government employees to quit their
Now,
job.
here's the thing. We could just say the senators don't have to go in, but still have all the bureaucrats have to go to a single area.
Yeah.
Force
That's
them
what
to
Elon Musk
travel.
is talking about. He's not talking about senators and shit.
Yeah.
He's talking about your average everyday government bureaucrat. 80% of them don't even show up.
I would have it forced on them. They'd have to come in. No
That's
working from
what
home.
he wants to do. He's saying that they will drag their asses in. And then a lot of people are saying, well, if he does that, I'll just quit, which is kind of what he wants them to do any damn way.
I think that's what he'd want them to do. I think that's what he
Right? I mean,
happened in Twitter.
his job is to shrink the government. So if you quit, you're just helping him, right? You just did. It's like instead of having to fire you and give you unemployment
Yeah, I
and
know what you were
everything
talking
like
about,
that,
violence
now
of
your ass
everything.
is just out on the street. And it's like if you think that you did, I'm gonna stand up for a cause and I'm just
Stand
gonna
up for
quit.
a
And it's
cause.
like you're an idiot,
It's like,
you know?
that might work, except that nobody wants you there in the first place. So,
So the first thing he wants to do is have everyone who does not work in an office start working in an office. That's like step one. There'll be no work from home bullshit for anybody in government. And then
I mean, even with senators, you could have them have like
he's
a
talking about
office.
moving. And here's the thing, the stuff that Doge is talking about doing doesn't require the Senate or Congress.
Hmm.
It can all be done by presidential
Edict, or I forgot what they were called.
yeah, he could just sign a paper and get it done.
Yeah.
And the biggest advantage of scattering them about
Executive
is
order.
security. If a war broke out, it wouldn't allow a single strike. Yeah, that's a good thing, especially considering how people are acting.
And with this, I mean, you could still have the senators have like a office in their state, and that's where they would have to do their business in.
Well, senators do. Like
See?
Marco Rubio used to have an office in Florida where you could actually call and talk to him if he were there at the time, because there was a time when they were talking about doing some kind of gun control law. And I called Marco Rubio's office and I said, if he votes for this, I will dedicate the rest of my life to making sure he loses the next reelection. And they're like, well, thank you for sharing it. Let me assure you that he does not plan on voting for this. And I was like, well, I heard he was. So I'm letting you know right now, if he votes for this, it was like red flag laws or some stupid.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's like that one guy from Texas, Crenshaw.
Right. That freaking rhino. And I was just saying, I'm just letting you know. I like Marco Rubio. He's been a pretty good representative, but if he votes for this, he is dead to me. You know what I mean? Basically, that's what I said. Not really, but basically. I was like, That mother, you know. Musk
Dogecoin.
wants highly intelligent people willing to work 60 plus hours a week for Doge. There's a reason that he says that. And the reason that Musk says that, because you got to remember, Musk is a super genius, is he knows that only people who are highly intelligent and 100% determined to do the job would ever apply. Like your average guy that's like, maybe I'll try. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to see that 60 plus hours and be like, F that. Musk wants nerds that are as autistic as he is to be in Doge with him.
I mean, that's fair, I guess. I don't see many of the cryptocurrencies worth it.
Who knows? I mean, Elon, his Doge went up, and then everybody who was talking how he was going to lose money on X, he used X to jump off a startup company that has to do with like cyber tech or some shit like that, and made like over $100 billion.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's stupid. I just see crypto as another fiat currency. I mean, what's it really worth? Especially if you don't have internet, you can't get to it.
Right.
It's like it'll be worthless if we lose internet. That's fine. Okay. Woo.
Yeah, if there was ever like an electromagnetic pulse that took out all the computers and stuff, then your crypto would still exist. You just would never be
Have
able to
access to it.
access it for however long. Speaking of, though,
And who knows if it would
violence
get
solves
erased either.
everything is right that we need to start scattering people. And when Trump goes into office, I think the first thing he should do is remove us from NATO. Because England and France are saying if the United States stops paying money to Ukraine, they're going to send troops in to fight for Ukraine. And I'm all like, it was nice knowing you, England and France. You had a good run.
Okay, actually, to be fair, I see it as like probably a fictional stock option because I mean, some people did make a lot of money on Bitcoin, and good for them. I'm not going to complain. That's
Dude,
nice.
people are still making money on Bitcoin. The
Oh, I
last
know.
time I checked, it's like $9,000 a coin or some shit.
I know, but it's just like you know what? Good for those people, you know.
And like 20 years ago, you could buy Bitcoin for like a dollar a piece.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I did it.
Yeah,
I didn't expect it to go up that
has
much.
it had its ups and downs? Yes, it's had ups and downs. But if you got into it early, you're a multimillionaire now. And that's why you've got people investing into Ethereum and Dogecoin was supposed to be a freaking joke. Elon Musk invented that shit just to troll.
Fair.
And now it's actually starting to be worth stuff. Because,
I would
because
say this is
everything that
different
man
from a
touches
Ponzi
makes
scheme,
money.
though. I mean, Ponzi schemes, they are old, but this isn't Ponzi. This is more like betting.
Well, no, it's not.
Gambling, kind of.
Here's how Bitcoin works. You have or all cryptocurrencies.
I mean,
You have like this gigantic number, and that's the total amount of coins ever, right? And there can be like hardly no more coins, right?
Yeah.
And then, so when you buy a Bitcoin, you're buying a part of a finite thing. And
I guess.
now, supposedly you can mine for Bitcoin, but I mean, you know, it takes forever, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so, and every single Bitcoin is 100% unique, like with embedded security and all kinds of crazy shit, right? So it's like, I don't know if you can really call it a fiat currency or not. It's I guess what I should just said, Leth, is it's complicated.
It's
Fucking
complicated.
complicated.
I'm only saying that it's kind of like gambling because you're gambling with the idea that it might become worth something in the future.
Oh yeah, which is why I didn't buy, you know, $500 worth of Bitcoin back in the day.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to gamble $500. Now, if I had known then what I know now, I would have dropped 500 at least. Picked up the Bitcoins when they were like $1 a piece, and then sat on them until they hit that high back about 10 years ago, and then got rid of half of them, and I would be a millionaire. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, gold is safe. Gold is probably more safe than most any other currency.
Well, gold is always going to be
Worth
stable
something.
because it's finite.
Yes.
There's only so much gold, and
Gold,
it's
silver, and
impossible to
platinum.
make
They're
it.
all like that.
Right. It's impossible to make more gold. And, you know, if you've got an issue with gold currencies, though, you could use silver.
Yeah.
We did that for a while. I
And
used to have some. It was when Nixon was president. I had $5 silver certificates that you could take into a bank. And I don't know if you could do it now, but the theory was you could take it into a bank and they had to give you $5 in silver.
yeah.
But probably not now, though.
I'm not sure.
But silver's another thing.
I mean,
that's
if you still have the
finite.
certificates, they should be legally valid, right?
Well, the idea of the original gold or the original script, the original dollar was that it was worth X amount of gold.
Ah.
So you could walk into, like, if we're talking like, you know, the 1800s and shit, you were supposed to be able to walk into any bank with your script, and if you wanted to, trade it for gold. But then the thing is, the gold got more and more expensive. So, you know, the dollar devalued because gold was so much more expensive than the dollar was.
Gold is not produced; it's mined. You can't make gold.
Yeah, you can't make it. You can mine it though. But gold, all the gold on Earth was created by stardust. You know, now here is the problem. If Elon Musk, I already vacuumed back there and mopped. Are you just going over what I did for fun? Yelling at my wife.
Well, yeah, I know, but
You
that's
can't
just
hear
it.
me though.
That's why gold has like a definite
image.
value to it, though, and silver and platinum. They're not things that we create; they are things that we have to get, and it's
Baby, I already did that. Oh, windowsills. You're doing windowsills. Oh, okay. No, I did not vacuum windowsills.
and besides,
Okay, I thought you were vacuuming the floors.
especially with silver and platinum, they're actually useful in other ways. Like platinum can be used in technology.
Well, gold and silver are in every bit of technology.
Yes.
I watched these dudes. I think they were in like Malaysia, and the company buys like all the broken down computers, and these dudes take all the motherboards and everything out, and they like melt them in a big freaking cauldron, and then they like separate the gold from everything else. And they barely get any gold out of one computer. But if they do 1,000 computers, then they might get an ounce of gold. Well, that's like $2,000 in US dollars, right? So in Malaysia, that's like, you know,
Yep.
a shit ton of money. And yeah, so pretty cool. Yeah, produced goods. Or we could do, I mean, the Russians put the ruble back on gold. And since they've done that, they've pretty much become wealthy as hell. I mean, they're in the middle of a war, possibly a World War III with all of Europe, and their economy is roaring. And their money is actually worth stuff, you know? Like if somebody says, "Hey, I want to buy stuff and I'm going to use ruples," then whoever the seller is knows for a fact that the ruples are worth gold. So that's kind of a big deal. And that's how we used to be until I forget which president was, took us off the gold standard.
It's hard to remember. I could see it being FDR because I mean a lot of I think we were pretty much almost off the gold standard by FDR though.
Which president was it in the United States that was like telling everybody they had to turn in their gold and silver coins?
FDR.
So it was probably him.
It was I think death knell in it though. We were kind of off the gold standard by then.
I mean, why would a president tell the people they have to turn in their gold coins? And how is that legal?
It probably. I mean, I don't know if it was or not.
Nixon took us off the gold standard. Okay.
Again, he could have been part of it too, but I mean, we were almost pretty much off of it before FDR. I mean, I think it was like after a certain president, we were like having like $3 per one type of gold, so you pretty much didn't have the gold standard.
Well, anyway, not to start any conspiracies, but a certain JFK had a law on his desk waiting for his signature before he got shot that would have put American money back on the gold standard. But apparently somebody didn't like that.
Either didn't like that or didn't like him enough to finally finish him off.
I mean, yep. But that was a true story that
I know LBJ, he didn't want FDR, or not FDR, JFK to live.
No, of course not. There's so many conspiracies. There's like, why wasn't everything checked out? Why was he riding around in an open top car? Why did they take a detour? Is there anything to the fact that he was killed on Trinity Boulevard or whatever, directly in front of the Dallas or whatever Masonic Hall, which he was not a Mason because back then the Roman Catholics still did not allow their people to be Masons. Whereas LBJ was a 33rd degree Mason, right?
I think
So,
it's
I
just
mean,
say
there's a
LBJ
lot of
had
rabbit
nerve.
holes you can go down. Like, why did Ruby, whose name was not Ruby, it was actually something like Rubenstein, why did he kill, what's his name? Because it's not like he loved JFK. He was a mobster. You know what I mean? He is a criminal. So it's not like he's like, as a patriot, I must kill the man who killed JFK. No. And also, he died very shortly after of cancer in prison. So you tell me, who do you think did it? A lot of people will want to say the Cubans did it or the Russians did it. And I'm saying, I think maybe the National Reserve did it.
Or just LBJ. I'm going to go with LBJ. He's the most likely.
Well, he was in on it.
I think he more was the driving factor on it.
Well, maybe. But here's the thing. I like the follow the money thing. If the US dollar had been put on a gold standard, it would have killed the Federal Reserve.
True, but sadly it didn't happen. Be the one thing that JFK actually did that was good.
Yep. Yep, that's true. A lot of the people who were against the creation of the Federal Reserve died on the Titanic. Coincidence? Probably, but
Most likely on that one.
Still weird. Still weird. Still like.
You know what the weirdest part is? If they didn't actually turn the ship, they would have actually survived. But the thing is, I mean, I'm not going to say the captain should have just kept going straight into an iceberg. It's just the weird fact that if they did, the ship would not have sank, and they could have been towed back to safety.
Right. Right. Because he would have caught it directly on the bow.
Yeah, instead of it being cut and having this big.
So what he should have done is instead of turning, he should have threw that shit in reverse. And if he hits it straight on, then he hits it straight on.
Quite a few people would have still died, but it would have been nowhere near the, death rate that happened.
Do you know what? You know how you know you're mature and grown up?
Yeah.
When you watch Titanic and you realize the one woman in it is the bad guy. You know what I mean? What's her name?
Yeah, Rose.
When you watch Titanic and realize Rose is the bad guy, that's how you know you're grown up. Like, one, there was enough room for Leonardo DiCaprio on that door. Two, she threw that jewelry into the ocean instead of finding the descendants of the man who gave it to her and giving it to them. Like, three, she was a slut that was running around banging some poor, Irish douchebag instead of being loyal to her fiance. It's like she was just the worst kind of person ever. I have never even heard of that, Deckard. That's some crazy shit right there.
Wasn't the Olympic the sister ship, and they both sank? I mean,
did they?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the Olympic I think was shot was torpedoed by a sub.
Well, the Lusitania and the Mauritania were sunk. And what's funny is, in World War I, the Germans would tell the Americans like what ships they were going to get, and they sold tickets on the Lusitania, as a cruise ship, even though the holds of the Lusitania were filled to the brim with artillery rounds and stuff. So the Americans basically pulled off the lie to all the other Americans that the evil Huns had sank a civilian ship, even though neither the Mauritania or the Lusitania were civilian ships. They had been carrying ammo for the whole war. And so basically, you know how we bitch about Hamas hiding their bullshit in schools?
Yeah, America's done the same, sadly.
We did the same thing in World War I. But
Yeah.
the reason we did it is because World War I was an incredibly unpopular war in America. Like no one wanted to get involved in it. So the news media and the government had to come up with a way to convince the people that it was a just war.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a way to justify the war. I just don't think it was a good way to justify a war.
Nope, but
Nor
the
should it have
whole
been a
thing,
thing.
the whole thing with the Mauritania and the Lusitania was basically a psyop by the United States to get us to agree to go to war with the Axis powers, which we did not want to do.
If it's World War One, then it wouldn't be Axis. That would have been the
Central.
Central Powers.
You're right. Central powers. Whatever. I mean, Germany and Italy. The usual suspects.
Wait a minute. Well,
Yeah, the
no, I think
Italians
Italy
were on
was.
the Central Power side, and then
Where?
when the Central Power started losing, they switched to the Allied side.
They do that a lot.
They did it. Hey, Italy, world champions of World War II. They're 2-0 for world wars.
I wonder
They
why.
never lost the World War, technically.
Is it because they keep switching sides, maybe?
Yeah, because as soon as shit looks like it's getting ready to be bad, they're
Funny
like,
part
no,
is,
we're on your side now.
Japan wasn't in the Central Power, so nobody can complain about
In
them
World
being on
War
their own
One,
side
I
on that
don't
one.
even know if Japan was involved.
Yeah, actually, I think they were. I can't remember.
See, here's the thing.
No, they weren't. Were they?
I think just before, or was it just after World War One ended, then the Russo-Japanese War happened,
Yeah. You're right.
which
I forgot
wasn't
if they
part of
were.
World War One, but it was such a monumental ass whipping to the Russians that it kind of helped the rebellion. It helped the commies because they were like, the Tsar sucks. We got our asses whipped by the Japanese.
Yeah.
And, and Russia become the first country ever in history. Okay, the first European country in history to lose a war to a non-European country. And that
Good
other
job,
country
Japan.
was
That's only
Japan.
Oh no. It's like European powers. There's just lines of victories, and then there's just this one non-European country.
Yeah. Of course, part of the reason they lost the Russo-Japanese War is America had been in Japan helping them refit their navy. So while the Russians were still using these really outdated dreadnoughts that were slow and whatever,
Oh yeah.
the Japanese had faster ships with guns that had much longer range.
And
So,
possibly was better crewed, sadly, because some. Let's just say
probably better crewed because they weren't just full of peasants.
yes.
And so the Japanese, and there was a lot more involved, obviously. But at the end of the day, yeah, it was just basically the Japanese had a lot of luck on their side, and better equipment.
I don't think that's even true for Hirohito. I don't think he was just a gilded bird that had no power. A lot of people will try to say that, but he was
Are
kind
you
of
talking about
complicit
the
in it.
emperor?
Yeah, Hirohito. I mean, it wouldn't be super insane if that
Is
did
he like
happen.
World War II?
What?
Which war was Hirohito?
Yeah, he was the
involved?
World War II emperor. A lot of people like saying that he had nothing to do with any of the war and was actually pretty much innocent of all the crimes. I'd say no, he was kind of complicit. He
Well,
had
I
the
mean,
power to
he was
possibly stop a
complicit
bit of it.
in that when his generals and admirals came to him and said they were going to go to war, he said, okay.
Yeah.
But that's probably about all he knew about it.
He was kind of against the war, but he was just like, everybody wants it. I guess I'll go with it.
Yeah, the Russo-Japanese Wars when the Russians lost control of Manchuria. Up until that time, Russia, Manchuria, Mongolia, all of that was part of the Russian Empire. And then when the Japanese rolled in and put a beating on them, that was kind of
Yeah, that was kind of it.
it, you know. I mean, the Russians managed to hang on to Siberia, but let's be honest, no one wanted it.
Yeah.
I mean, could the Chinese or the Japanese have invaded Siberia and took control of it? Yeah, probably. But you know, like I said, the question becomes, but why? I mean, do you really want to be up there? I mean, that
Well,
place
that's
sucks.
just it. Yeah, most of Japan didn't really want a war with America, but they did choose every way that kind of forced that war.
Well, we used every way to force the war.
I don't know. At this point, I mean, Japan did do a secret attack on America. I mean, they were trying, I think they were trying to actually declare war, then hit us, but it was so close.
Well, they tried to declare war, but their diplomats were left waiting until after the attack.
Yeah, it kind of like
But
got
the
muddy
reason I
a little
say
bit.
we did everything is because we had all these trade deals with Japan. And as soon as the war started, we cut all the trade deals.
That's kind of
And
fair too, I
Japan
guess.
was deeply reliant on the United States for oil and steel.
Yeah.
So they got really angry. They were like, hey, man, we got trade deals. What the fuck are you doing? And we were all like, haha, we do what we want. So then the Japanese got it into their head that Americans would surrender if they bloodied our nose big enough. They didn't understand the way Americans work.
Not every Japanese person thought that. In fact, I mean, Yamamoto, he knew what was going to happen if he did
Yeah,
this. And
he
he's like,
knew, but it didn't help him.
eh.
He
He's like,
even warned
okay,
the
this is not
other
going to be
guys,
good.
but it didn't help. He told the other guys, you know, after the attack, he told them, we have awakened the sleeping giant. He also told them you could never invade the American homeland. There would be a rifle behind every blade of grass.
And
But
technically, they kind of did invade a bit of America, but it didn't last long. In fact,
Alaska,
yeah.
like an island.
Yeah, they did invade an Alaskan island and left because it was too cold and terrible. They just didn't like it.
But the thing was, the Japanese had developed a kind of racism, which they still have, sort of like what the Germans did. They, for some reason, felt like Americans were weak-willed gaijin, and we would just surrender at the first sign of adversity. Blah 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 blah. Not all of them believed that, but a lot of them did.
Well, the
So when
Guangdong
the
Army could
attack
really
was,
hate him, but he was one of their best naval admirals that they had.
yeah, when the attack was mentioned, he got outvoted,
Yep.
even though he warned them. He's like, "This is not a thing you want to do," and they're like, "Oh no, we'll do it." The Americans are weak; they're soft. And then they did their attack, and the next thing you know, it was like,
You should see what their viewpoints were like whenever America developed nukes and used it on them.
right.
The Army was like, well, they could probably only do it once until the second one happened. And then they're like, okay, maybe we're wrong on this. The Navy's like, neat. Can you do it 7 more times?
Yeah.
It's like,
Then
The Navy was
officers from
insane.
the army kidnapped the emperor,
Yep. They
and
tried to at least.
other officers from the army saved him,
There was a lot of confusion at that point.
and then he eventually surrendered.
Yeah.
But some of the officers had kidnapped him because they didn't want him to be able to surrender.
They tried to kidnap him, I think. It was like they tried and failed. There was a lot of
Yeah,
confusion on that one.
yeah. It was a horrible thing we did, but it may have saved more lives. I don't know.
Might have. It's a hard thing to say. I mean, would it be better for us to do a full
He
land
was not
invasion?
loved by the Kwangtung army. He had to set sail to not be killed. Kwangtung army imposed full censorship.
Yeah, yeah. Now that did happen. They did a lot of crazy things. I mean, they had the fake guns, the guns that use blanks for the kids to learn how to shoot,
Yeah.
which a lot of Americans found they looked exactly like the regular guns, and so people started putting real ammunition in them, and they started exploding.
I worked with a guy who brought in and showed me once because I asked him to. Like after work, when we walked out in the parking lot, he showed me a katana that his dad had brought back
Oh, that's cool.
from World War II. And I was like, damn, I mean, this dude was way older than me, and this was like 30 years ago. But yeah, he had a katana that his dad had brought back.
Even if
So,
Japan had enough planes to fight, it would still not have mattered. Our planes were better, and we're just at a certain point we're better, and our people were trained better at a certain point.
I mean, playing armchair general is fun and all, but the reality is there is no way the Axis powers of World War II could win.
For them to win, you would basically have to change the entirety of the war, and it wouldn't be World War II then, now would it?
Well, yeah, you would have to make sure America does not join.
Yeah.
And if America had not joined, then the Axis powers might have had a chance to, if not outright win, to at least fight to an armistice and be able to keep some.
Yeah, again, they may have had a lack of planes. Not arguing that. I'm just saying, even if they did, it still would not give them the winning condition.
No, when America joined World War II, it was over.
America could produce more planes. They had the ability to upgrade their planes, unlike Japan.
Dude, at one point, we were putting a freaking what is it? A Fletcher class frigate in the water every week.
Yes.
We were putting aircraft carriers in the water in like a month. Airplanes, it was like they were rolling off the assembly lines, so many a day. It was like the Germans and the Japanese combined could not produce a tenth of the shit we produced. Not only did we feed and clothe the Russian army, we cranked out 60,000 Sherman tanks.
Every nation were using
like the
Shermans
Japanese had
at a certain
1,000
point.
tanks total. It's like, yeah, like every allied nation at one point or another used Sherman tanks.
And some non-allied ones too.
Yeah, some non-allied ones too. I mean, and then we gave the French Free Legion a bunch of Sherman tanks after we liberated France. It was like, that was really the thing. It wasn't necessarily that the Americans were the best fighters or even though I think we were, but whatever. I'm an American, so I recognize my bias. It was that no other country on the planet could match our industrial output. They just
There
they
was no
couldn't
way.
do it. Like Germany, by the mid-war, they were already feeling the pinch for oil.
I mean, not only were we doing like, putting down a plexiglass each week, we were improving upon our tech while at war, doing all this stuff.
Yeah, everything we were making was getting better as the war went on. So it was like, good luck. We're
Which is
making thousands
ridiculous.
of these. And if we see any problem in them, or they need upgunned or anything, because of the way we make them, they can be easily improved upon. No problem, right?
Yeah.
So the war was won by American industrialization. I would agree, Jose.
Doesn't
And
matter how
when we
good
fought the
quality your stuff is.
Japanese, pretty much in every battle except for Wake Island, we outnumbered them 10-1 and had way better equipment than they could ever even dream of having. Like, the Japanese could only, in their deepest dreams at night, dream of having Garands or a Sherman tank. I mean, they were
technically,
screwed, man.
Japan did have a few Garands, but again, it didn't really matter. They didn't get really that far out of, like, I think, testing phase.
Yeah, the Germans had a semi-auto rifle as well, but
Well, the Germans actually went full auto at one point, or tried
they
to.
did. They invented the first assault rifle.
Yep.
But the problem with them is production. They were inventing all kinds of cool shit. They just couldn't produce enough of it to matter, Like, there were whole units in Russia that were equipped with Stig 44s or MP 44s, which are the assault rifle. Didn't matter.
Yeah, who cares about, this BF 109K was better than the P51. There's still way more P51s out there than BF 109s.
Right. But then the problem is the Fokker Wolf 190 might have been better than that airplane, but it wasn't better than a Mustang. And when we developed the Mustang and then developed the drop pods so that the Mustang could escort bombers all the way to Berlin and back, it was like, yep. As a matter of fact, the one guy, I forget who he was, but he was part of the high command. He said in his memoirs, he knew the war was over when he walked out of the Reichstag and looked up and saw an American fighter fly over. And he's like, yeah, we're done. I mean, what are you going to do? It's over. I mean, towards the end of the war, they were hiding their fighter planes in the woods and taking them off from the Autobahn to try to protect, the fatherland. But it didn't matter. They were outnumbered and outgunned.
And then they still kept on wasting a lot of their money on Wonder
research and shit. And by the time America entered the war, most of their most elite units were already dead. Like I said, if you look at the men who were guarding the Atlantic seawall, it was old men and young boys because they just didn't have the army anymore. It was gone. It had died in Stalingrad and Leningrad. P-51 had a weak radiator, made them bad for strafing missions.
We already had other planes that could do that.
Yeah, we had a plane specifically designed for that. What was it called? Tornado or something like that?
I think it was the P-47.
Yeah, it was like a flying tank.
It wasn't tornado. It was like the lightning.
Which, yeah, we had a ground attack aircraft. It was relatively slow, but it was so armored they called it the flying tank. And its only job was to cruise around and blow shit up. Like, bridges, railroads, trains, tanks, just whatever. Yeah, the casualty, because America volunteered to bomb during daylight. That was part of the deal. We volunteered to do all the daylight bombing. So our B-17 and B-24, I think, crews.
Yeah, Thunderbolt, that was it. Thunderbolt.
Yeah, the Thunderbolt, the flying tank, or the flying brick, some people called it. Because it was not made for dogfighting. That thing was 100% made to blow up shit on the ground.
Sadly, part of our issue with the daylight bombing with the B-17s is that we didn't have the best fighter to escort them yet.
Yep. I mean, as soon as the Mustangs become very common and the drop tanks and shit,
it worked. It
the
just
loss
wasn't the
of
best.
bombers kind of slowed down a lot.
Now, if only we had the twin Mustang during World War II.
But yeah. But like let's said, it was because you're in a B-17 flying in formation in broad daylight with no fighter support.
Interesting one there, the Catalina.
The Catalina is that the Italian fighter?
No, that's an American one, I think. The PBY Catalina, I think it was like an American bomber. A very weird one, but still.
Oh, I played Chuck Yeager's, Air Combat. One of the best missions on that one is Oyster 1. Which is you and your partner flying F-4 Phantoms over
let me say something.
Northern Vietnam. You engage the enemy, and the problem is these are the very early production F-4 Phantoms, so they don't have a gun. Because there was a period when the Americans were convinced that guns were over, because missiles would just be so much better. So they literally designed a fighter jet that had no guns on it. And the big problem with it was, as soon as you fired all your missiles, then what?
I was wanting to see who made Chuck Yeager's Air Combat. It wasn't who I thought it would be, but fair.
I think it was Microsoft.
No, it was EA.
EA, yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering if it was actually Sid Meier.
Well, Chuck Yeager, I think, in real life, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, was a badass. Like, he was a fighter pilot in Korea, flying L-86 or F-86 Sabres or whatever. And he was an ace, he had shot down a shit ton of commies.
Sid Meier, the guy who made all Civ, the video game.
Yeah.
He also made quite a few like flight sims back in the day too.
Yeah. But the best game he ever made was called Pirates.
Yeah, he also made Pirates. And here's the thing: if you know it was
not. In case you guys are wondering what I'm doing while we're talking, I am putting primer on my Pirates.
That's why you said
these are British, so I reserve the right to steal everything.
But
just because I'm British.
Back in the day, you knew that the company did not have any confidence in the game if they put Sid Meier on it.
Yeah, because they were trying to trick people into. He was a West Virginia boy. Yeah, it makes sense. Most of the best warriors to ever be in the American military are from the South. Patton was from Carolina.
It was like, this is your passion project. We're going to make sure everybody knows that it's yours, and good luck if it works.
Well,
then it
all of
worked.
the
And then
Sid Meier's Civilization games, every single one of them, the old ones were good.
yeah,
Every one of them was.
I think the newer ones are still fine, although I don't know about the newest one. The newest one doesn't look good at all.
Yeah, I mean, they started getting kind of bleh when they started being cartoonish and
Kind of
not
cartoonish
letting
and
you
graphics.
play like it was like, okay, it's a Sid Meier's Civilization game, and half of the civilizations are ruled by queens. Even, I think this is Sid Meier's 4 or 5. The Byzantine Empire's in the game,
Ran by
but
Theodora.
instead of Emperor Justinian, they have his wife.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Why?
why? Yeah, Justinian was the emperor at this time. Now, they say his wife was very smart, and he was a smart guy to listen to her, but that doesn't change the point that
That he was ruling the thing and not her.
yeah, he was the emperor. She wasn't the emperor. Now, Dido of Carthage, that makes a lot more sense since she actually was the
I mean, if they wanted to still put a female character in lead, they could have went Japan and just put Himiko in charge.
right. So they just started adding stupid shit.
Yeah, that's fair. But gameplay wise, I'd still say they're all fine for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, they're not bad. I actually absolutely loved and have Sid Meier's, the one where you go into like space and
I know what you're talking about.
you land on another planet and you get to choose whether you want to.
That was actually made because Sid Meier lost the rights to Civilization, so they just made that instead.
Huh. Yeah, you get to choose whether you want to go the soft or the hard path. Which basically means, do you alter the planet to be more habitable for humans, or do you alter yourself to make you more adapted to the planet? The soft path is adapting yourself. And I always played the Russians and or the Americans.
Alpha Centauri, that was
and
it.
I always took the
Thanks, Mr. Anderson.
I always took the hard path. So I'm not changing for this planet. This planet will change for me.
Fair.
Start terraforming, and in Traveler 2300 they added that. Different nations embrace different paths, and when you make a character for Traveler 2300, you choose your own personal philosophy. Alpha Centauri, that's the one.
Yep.
So you end up getting into battles with battleship sized aliens and hordes of aliens and nests and hives. And
I guess you could say, if it wasn't for Hasbro, Alpha Centauri would not have existed.
And eventually, if you play the game right, you whip everybody's ass. And
it was a very weird, legal issue with, Civilization, because whenever Sid Meier made that game, they did not have the rights to use the name Civilization, which was a board game in England. So whenever a new company came in, started making games off the board game, they went and sued the Sid Meier's
then they had to
company,
rename it
UK.
Sid Meier's.
No, they didn't have to name it Sid Meier's because of that. No, Sid Meier's Civilization was still a thing, but they couldn't use the word civilization in their game anymore. Whenever they became 2K, then they went and bought the original company, from England that had the rights to the name before the court started, just to go into court and say, "No, we own the rights now."
Hey,
And that's why there's two different civilizations, one that's Sid Meier's and one that's not, but made by different companies.
it's so wild because it's like he created a whole genre of games because you've got like
Yep,
humankind and or mankind, whatever it's
millennia
called.
now.
Yeah,
There's a whole bunch of, well, I guess you could say copycat games.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
that's what they are. I mean, you know.
but I find the funniest legal situation or legal maneuvering ever to be is going over by the company and saying, "No, we have the rights now."
The worst legal finagling in the history of gaming was what was it? Pink Pineapple or whatever selling or selling suing FASA over mechs because they claimed that they had the right to distribute Robotech and whatever. So any mech that was based off of Robotech,
I get that.
uh,
I don't think you should be able to just trademark random words just to be like, "Hey, you're using that
no,
in the
the
game."
look, the design, everything.
I know, but that's what he's talking about. Bethesda tried to sue people for using scrolls in their name.
Oh yeah, and then like so then they got into a big throwdown over everything, and that went on for the better part of 20 years, I would say. And the only reason it ended is at the end of it all, it turned out that the company that had been suing FASA didn't actually have the rights to any of those mechs because they couldn't find out who had the rights to those mechs. Like no one could figure out who actually owned the design because
Pink pineapple,
even
yeah.
though those mechs were in, Robotech or whatever, no one knew who the artist was,
Wait,
and no one knew who owned the copyright.
okay. So wait, was Pink Pineapple suing somebody because of these mechs?
Yes,
Okay,
they were
so a
suing
hentai
back
company was suing over
because okay,
mechs.
the pineapple company or whatever, they were suing FASA because FASA was using mechs from Robotech.
Did Pink
And
Pineapple
they
own
had
Robotech?
bought from somebody in Japan the rights to distribute Robotech in North America.
Okay. Hmm.
But then eventually, after 20 years, it come to be like, okay, it's Golden Pineapple, whoever they are.
Oh, okay. It's not Pink Pineapple. Okay.
But anyway, the point is, after X amount of years of fighting and basically FASA going out of
Yeah, I
business,
think you're thinking of Harmony Gold, actually.
Harmony Gold, maybe that's it.
Yeah, that's Harmony Gold that you're thinking of.
So why I have pineapples in my head, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I need some freaking pineapples. Maybe I need some pineapple today. But anyway, the point is, yeah, in the end, no one could prove who actually owned
The mechs.
the mechs. Like the company didn't know, nobody knew.
Did the original
So
artist not know? Or not own it?
they didn't know who the artist was.
Oh, okay, fair enough, I guess. But I thought, huh?
So that was kind of like the thing, it was like you're suing these guys because you're mad that they have mechs that look like mechs from this show, that you paid money to distribute, but it turns out that nobody actually has the copyright to these mechs.
Yeah, we know Harmony Gold didn't actually own the rights to the mechs.
So then the judge dismissed the case with prejudice.
Yeah.
And that is when Catalyst Games started remaking all the old mechs. Because it was like, F you, Harmony Gold, we're going to make Archers and Griffins. And,
Okay, so Studio Nue made the mecha.
well, a lot of the mecha were made by, like, apparently the guy who made Battletech went to Japan, watched a bunch of TV, and he thought like 5 different shows were one show.
I could see that kind of. A lot of the mecha artists, if anything, a lot of these mecha anime or mangaka would actually take ideas from each other all the time.
Yeah,
Didn't
he
care.
thought like Robotech, Dougram, Fang of the Sun, like what's it called? Gundam. Like, and this is the old Gundam back before they were flying around, when they were just kind of trotting around with machine guns killing each other.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
it was like, so he watched all of this bullshit, thought it was one thing, and then came back to America and made battle droids, and
Man, I miss
promptly
old
got
Gundam.
sued by George Lucas,
I really like the Zaku design.
and then changed it to battle mechs. Anyway, I'm going to get off of here,
Yeah, I'll see you then.
and I will catch all of you guys later. Ciao.